Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 Quick Match gameplay. This time around we are on Shimmer's Ward playing as the Skaven against the forces of the High Elves. And for this match I wanted to try out some more use out of warplating cannons against the High Elves. One of the big problems for Skaven is how effective the Eagleclaw bolt throwers are at killing their artillery. Warplating cannons definitely can't trade one-to-one, and it's tough. Despite their short range, your opponent can basically just push the Eagleclaw bolt throwers into range, kill your warplating cannons. Your warplating cannons don't really get the value they need to generate to, but at the same time, to really be effective. At the same time, though, you kind of need some tool to deal with heavy cav, to deal with flyers, to deal with units like that. And to deal with kiting units like Shadow Warriors. Now, granted, warplating cannons are not ideal against Shadow Warriors, but you need something. I figured that in this situation, they're better than nothing, and at the same time, they should be good enough to counteract things like Eagleclaw bolt throwers. And whereas Plagueclaw catapults, while they definitely might do well against Shadow Warriors, are not going to do well against Eagleclaw bolt throwers. So this build is essentially built around these three warplating cannons. For my lord, I actually brought a warlord on a bonebreaker. It's not something you see very often, but with his decent mass, okay, not amazing melee stats, some armor, decent weapon strength, some okay mobility for Skaven, very high mobility actually, it's 60, and plus he does have some okay kit, Rally, Verminous Valor, Deadly Onslaught, and Shield Distraction here for -5 melee attack. He's all in all a solid combat unit, plus he's dirt cheap. I think he costs like 1500 in this configuration, so really cheap. Alongside him, a Warlock Engineer, basically just to get a caster on the field, but also for some of his abilities here. He does have the Shadow Magnet Trinket, which gives you +12 missile parry, very nice for your clan rats to make him a little tankier against arrows. Warpstone Armor, of course, to do that draining Mortis Engine effect in close quarters, Warp Lightning, and then Howling Warp Gale to lock down flyers. Now, our front line here really isn't meant to win. We've got a horde of Clan Rat Spears with shields mixed in with a single unit of Clan Rats here in the back, and then 4 units of Skaven Slaves on the periphery. We also do have 2 units of Rat Ogres to add some additional mass and some additional stopping power if and as needed, to sort of function like a pseudo-cav that can also flex and protect the cannons. Finally, we do have 2 Deathglow Bombardiers to wipe out elite enemy infantry, as well as 2 Poison Wind Globes to wipe out large. If it starts settling in on any of these units, we do hopefully have enough spread to get a crossfire going from all angles. Now for my opponent here, he did decide to go with some flyers, as well as some infantry, and of course the dreaded bolt thrower. And I was hoping that with 3 warplating cannons, we could outtrade, say, 1 or 2 bolt throwers. And even if I might lose a few warplating cannons, I'll be able to win. And then I'll still have some artillery on the field. Now, for my opponent, he did bring 2 Eagleclaw bolt throwers here, who obviously aren't going to be good against most of my other targets, but against warplating cannons, they'll be very potent. A front line of spearmen, some white lines of grace mixed in there to deal with things like Stormvermin, and probably just a multitude of Clan Rats in a pretty efficient manner. 4 units of vanilla archers in the back. These guys, of course, will do some devastating damage to squishy targets. They'll even melt things like Hell Pit Abominations and units like Hell Pit Abominations, Rat Ogres, that sort of stuff. They're very potent against that. And if they can get in range, they'll melt a Hell Cannon, or not a Hell Cannon, warplating cannon as well. Or they'll even overwhelm Poison Wind Globes with just raw firepower. There's some additional units of spears in the back to protect the artillery, which makes sense. Skaven do have a handful of sneaky, stabby options like Death Runners they can potentially bring against you. Alariel the Radiant is camping out here in the bushes. All she has is, I think she only has Earthblood actually, which is a little surprising. Personally, I recommend bringing Frost Protection and Earthblood, even if you don't really plan to use both. It does let you spam Life Bloom as well as Shield of Sapphire if you bring that a little more often, though my opponent here went very budget. Brought the Stave of Avalorn though. I wouldn't, honestly guys, this is something I wouldn't recommend. I wouldn't recommend the Stave of Avalorn at all. It honestly doesn't really do much right now. It doesn't reduce cost. He might have thought it reduced the cost of Earthblood. It does not, guys. Shieldstone of Isha, good choice, of course, as always. Star of Avalorn, very powerful, but definitely wouldn't recommend Stave of Avalorn right now. And I would not really recommend going with just 1 spell on Alariel, but still, she's a potent lord. She's got some very solid melee stats. Honestly, she might be able to take on my guy on a Bonebreaker, despite the fact that she's not meant for combat, just because she's got such respectable defense. 2 Sun Dragons, the budget Walmart dragons up here in the sky. Of course, the Fear and Terror works just the same, just as well as it does on a Star Dragon. It means I've got more targets to deal with, and between them and the Eagleclaw bolt throwers, my warplating cannons are going to have their work cut out for them for sure. Now, as you can see, the warplating cannon is immediately going to start teeing off here. All 3 of them are going to start firing at the Eagleclaw bolt thrower over here, and they actually managed to take one offline, which is great. So that immediately sets the gun ratio to 9 to 5, which, you know, that's nice. That's definitely convenient. But unfortunately, the remaining shots are whiffing, and my opponent is immediately teeing off on my warplaning cannons. I'm trying to sort of kite with warplaning cannons. It's kind of ridiculous. I'm kiting with artillery, but I'm trying to avoid getting a single warplaning cannon focused down while using the other other cannons to focus out the bolt throwers. But my opponent's pushing in, and he's kind of, perhaps he didn't expect to be able to win here with the Eagle Claw bolt throwers. Whatever the case may be, he is definitely being very aggressive. He knows he has the archers to overwhelm me, and unfortunately, the warplaning cannons are just not hitting. And I don't know if maybe with chevrons they do a little better. They're just so inaccurate, and they're really, despite the fact they do have a reasonable rate of fire, they're just failing to really take out down these Eagle Claw bolt throwers. And immediately we're going to start losing guns here. You can see immediately we've already lost a single warplaning cannon, a single volley there, which is nuts. And we do manage to take another artillery piece offline, but still, it's just very, very inefficient. And now the Sun Dragons are coming in, starting to flank. And I'm starting to come under a bit of pressure because my opponent is going to be pressuring my front line, which is obviously not good enough to hold. He's going to be pounding me with the Eagle Claw bolt throwers. And if my warplaning cannons shift fire off the Eagle Claws, they're going to be taken down in short order, which is a problem. You can see this guy's already down. He's about to lose the final model pretty shortly, I do believe, which is going to mean this entire crew is basically pointless. They're just a crew of Skaven. And I'm trying to screen them here with the Clan Rat's shields, but it doesn't really help. The shots still go through, and that sucks. So it's bad. Over here, the Death Globe Bombardiers in full retreat after I accidentally pushed them a little forward. You can see we're actually just retreating away. But we did manage to take one Eagle Claw bolt through him down completely, and another one's down to 2 guns. So that's a decent achievement. But we're still stuck. Now we only have 2 warplaning cannons left, and my opponent's dragons are now sweeping around the flanks for the kill. In the meantime, in the front line, the Clan Rat Spears are going to start committing. You can see Death Globes raining down as the Warlock Engineer dives in and starts Mortis Engineering the hell out of these guys. Over here, same thing. Clan Rat Spears diving in against the White Lions, and we're just bogging down my opponent's flanks and trying to shut down that infantry push. Over here, my opponent did cycle back to White Lions as the Death Globes dropped a few nukes on them, and that means that they're not in position really, and now these spears are going to get melted. The Mortis Engine effect, the Warplaning crew, of course, providing a huge amount of support there, totally carrying the day. But more importantly, of course, the Death Globes are just melting these guys. These guys up to 25 kills in short order, and they're going to be able to bust these spears very quickly. Over here, the Warlord does manage to bunker bust these White Lions. He's taking them down pretty quickly, and if we can get rid of their martial prowess, they're going to be in a much worse position. Similar thing over here, the White Lions pushing through courageously, but the Death Globes pounding them. But now the Sun Dragons are in position. They're going to be able to start raining down death and destruction. And they're going to be able to take entire models down with the breaths, which is just crazy. Really showing how powerful High Elves can be at killing artillery, especially oversized, difficult to defend artillery like Skaven. Over here, the Poison Wind Globes were in the back defending against dragons, or trying to defend against dragons, but really they're not able to cut the mustard. And the breath attacks are really melting these poor Warplaning crew, and basically shattering them and routing them off the field, which is just disastrous for me. That said, the Death Globes push through. They are still on 36 models, and they just start raining death on these archers. And with 57 models, or with 57 kills already, these guys have really been paying their dividends, doing a great job. Now as my opponent pushes forward with the spears, he's not going to be in that great of a spot. You can see Alariel there juking some poison wind shots, but we are keeping her on her toes. And now we're kind of rolling over. These White Lions busted because of the spears, as well as the Rat Ogres in there. The Rat Ogres are just doing immense work right now. 13 kills, but they've been doing a lot of work. Death Globes still doing well. You can see Death Globes raining in on these Spearmen, and although my opponent is going to dive in here on the Poison Wind Globes, he only has 2 Sun Dragons, so he's not going to be able to shut everything down. Meantime, his backline completely compromised as my horde of rabble just swarms over. The White Lions breaking. The Warlord is running amok with Deadly Onslaught, and now this dragon here, which thinks it's going to be tough, is takes a nasty volley there from the Poison Wind Globes, gets really badly messed up, and he's now down to 2800 HP. Definitely not where he wants to be in life. And if the Poison Wind Globes can get some more fire into him, he's going to be in a sad position. Howling Warpgale does go down, which is going to prevent him from moving, which is really nice. Able to net him down, fortunately. And now we're going to be able to sort of kite back with our Poison Wind Globes, start pulling these spears into the fray, and trying to bog these guys down, because we need these to prevent these Sun Dragons from moving. And fortunately, Overcast Howling Warpgale does last a pretty long time. I forgot to cast it initially, which is why it still hasn't been used until now. But now we are on the Sun Dragon, and we're pounding his face in. You can see the Poison Wind Globes disengage, and just look at this volley that's going to come in. Star of Avalorn comes through, but look at that damage. He basically loses everything in the space of a few seconds. Star of Avalorn and Earthblood certainly heals a lot, but it's not going to prevent the shatter there. So instantly, my opponent is down a dragon, which is a huge win there. Meantime, we do actually still have a Warp Lightning crew over there, as well as a second Warp Lightning crew, which is somewhere in the back over there. The last 16 models that abandoned cannon, running amok, trying to shut down the backline. And we have a horde of Skaven. This is one of the nice things about Skaven. When you have if you're fighting an infantry-heavy army, you can then, if you win, you can then overrun your opponent and start running these troops down and into the ground. You can see these spearmen here being routed, being chased. Over here, the dragon trying to contribute a bit. Unfortunately, we kind of whiff with the Poison Wind Globes there, but the Sun Dragon is in full retreat. Or trying, well, actually not full retreat. He's just trying to flex to help over Alariel over here, and he's actually going to dive in and do some nasty damage to the Warlord. See that double tap? That tends to happen where aerial units land. I don't know why, but it happens quite often. And the Sun Dragon here, you know, he's holding up pretty good, and the Warlord not so much. Earthblood does go down, which is going to stabilize the Sun Dragon's leadership. You can see he's up to a chevron, and he's just pounding the Warlords like completely. It's really brutal stuff, and the Warlord is not going to be able to extricate himself, which is really bad for Skaven, of course, because their leadership is, shall I put it, as bad. He actually completely shatters here in full retreat from the field, just a complete disgrace. But Alariel, despite her best efforts here, is getting bogged down. You can see I'm casting another Howling Warp Gale just to keep the Sun Dragon in place, dropping some Warp Lightning down, trying to catch these spears, kind of failing, but you know, we're just trying to shut them down. And the Poison Wind Globes are out on the flank here, and they're ready to come back in and start pounding on the Sun Dragon. Elsewhere, the fight is going very much in our favor. You can see we actually overran some of these artillery crews. Now we're going to be able to push in against the archers, pulling these spears back, and we just have so much trash. We're able to use our Skaven slaves to bog down these spears. Skaven slaves chasing off archers and spears everywhere else. My opponent, if he can get his dragon off the ground, he might have a chance, but I'm trying to do my very best here to prevent that Sun Dragon from getting away. You can see nail him with so many Poison Wind Globes. He loses hundreds of HP in seconds, and he's going to actually, I do believe, rout here. So definitely some rough stuff for my opponent. Alariel is in here shutting down the Poison Wind Globes, but she's not that good of a killer. Her weapon strength is just too low. It's only 300, and they've got armor. They've got 100 armor. You see these guys have 2 chevrons. These guys not quite at 1, but still, they've been doing work. And Alariel now getting pounded by rat ogres, which is really not where she wants to be in life. And the dragon, you know, he routed the Deathwind Globes, or the Death Globes over here, up to 78 kills. The second unit of Death Globes up to 54, and helping stomp those infantry mobs. You know, Skaven slaves failing over here against the spearmen, but we actually get a Warp Lightning Cannon back online. He's going to start shooting at the Sun Dragon, missing because he sucks, but hey, he tries his little heart out. Elsewhere, the Rat Ogre is still running amok in the back line, compromising everything. The spears over here, pinstering the archers. Despite the loss of the Lord, these guys are holding up. Another Howling Warp Gale does go down the Sun Dragon, which is at this point just going to get nuked by barrage of Poison Wind Globes. Poison Wind Globes not the greatest at flying units. They're pretty terrible, which is why I prevented them from firing early on, but it is going to be the Shatter at this point, giving a victory to the Skaven hordes. So pretty unfortunate beginning to this game. Ended up with a Skaven victory, and I think a few things did kind of work out in my favor. The Warp Lightning Cannons kind of failed, and it's a tough matchup because of that. If you bring Warp Lightning Cannons, you are risking, or for that matter, Plague Claws, you're risking bolt throwers shutting you down hard. At the same time, if you don't bother, if you don't bother with Warp Lightning Cannons, then you are going to struggle a huge amount against dragons, against knights like Dragon Princes and well, not so much. Well, actually, to an extent, Illyrian Reavers as well. You're going to struggle against Silverhelms, Chariots. All those units are incredibly cancerous against Skaven. If Skaven don't have Warp Lightning Cannons, they struggle. Poison Wind Globes are an okay counter, but their short range really kind of screws them. I think maybe once Warplock Jezzails, this will become an easier situation. But yeah, the Warp Lightning Cannons, they struggle. As far as the overarching view goes, I made a bit of a misplay with the Warlord. Definitely, the first mistake was kind of bringing the 3 Warp Lightning Cannons, trying to make that work. I overestimated their ability to deal with the Eagle Claw Bolt Throwers. They eventually shut them down for most part, but by then my opponent was on top of me. And keep in mind, this is 3,000 worth of artillery shooting at 1,400 worth, less than half of their value of Eagle Claw Bolt Throwers. So just incredibly cost inefficient. But my main mistake that game was really pushing my Warlord into the fight and keeping him in there against Alariel and Sun Dragon, thinking he could tank, but he really can't. You need to know when you're beat, and I just didn't, and I kept him in there, and he shattered. And that, had my opponent been a little stronger at that point, he might have been able to turn that game around. The fact that I'd managed to already take one Sun Dragon offline was a huge saving grace in that situation. As for the rest of the build, you know, it performed basically as expected. The Warlock Engineer was a little slow. I forgot about using his magic to shut down the dragons, which could have helped a huge amount. But, you know, his magic helped control the dragons in the end. His Warpstone ability managed to melt down a lot of those infantry pockets, getting rid of those white lines, those spears, those sorts of troops, helping blitz through them quickly. The Rat Ogres also immensely powerful for that. I didn't really use them to protect myself as well, but they were great on the offense. Both the Globes really performing really well. Globes, I think, have hit a sweet spot where they're actually worth it. I know some people are saying Death Globes still need to be dropped in price, but I actually think at this point the units work. Death Globe Bombardiers, they got a little cheaper, they got more ammo. I think they're in a strong spot. They can melt infantry. Had my opponent gone with something more elite here, these guys would have paid for themselves even more so. In this situation, they didn't have optimal targets, so what can you do? Poison Globes also pretty potent. You saw how fast they annihilated the Sun Dragons. You know, spears, no, they're spears. Same as Skaven Slate. Not much you can expect there, but they did manage to exploit breakthroughs, which is really important as well for Skaven. That if you beat your enemy's infantry, you can then run them down. And, you know, Skaven Slaves will chase off White Lions just as well as a unit of Stormmen or Plague Monks. So, hey, it is what it is. For my opponent's build for Black Phillip here, I actually think it's a pretty solid. If you're trying to do like a, for lack of better word, something like I'd say more honest or more balanced, I suppose, build. As the High Elves. This is honestly a pretty respectable decision. You've got Fear and Terror from the Dragons, you've got a decent chunk of holding infantry, you've got White Lions to crack Stormmen, a whole bunch of Spearmen, and some Bolt Throwers to shut down enemy artillery. That said, I would try to get in a little more cavalry probably to really shut down those backlines, or chariots maybe even, because the Poison Wind Globes and the Globes can do a lot of damage, and you definitely saw that in this game, just how much damage they could do. And I don't really think 2 Sun Dragons are that great. They're not that great at shutting down units, and of course they can be controlled with the Warp Storms. So something worth keeping in mind. I do think that you'd even been better off if you'd, I don't know, dumped like a unit of spears into 2 of the archers and crammed in some Illyrian Reavers, or honestly just ditch the White Lines completely, because if your opponent brings Stormmen, he's not going to have that many, and you can just shoot them down with the Eagle Claw Bolt Throwers and cycle charge them with the Dragons, and you can maybe throw a spell, throw like Banishment or Alariel or something, and you'll get some decent performance there. But regardless, well played to Black Phillip here. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you found it entertaining and perhaps it gave you some inspiration for Skaven. If you enjoyed it, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. If you have any comments, any criticism, any questions, as usual, do not hesitate to post them. I will do my best to respond as soon as I can. I do thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.